Hi, everybody.
Hey
Thanks
guys.
for joining.
Hi.
We're going to give everybody a couple more minutes to trickle in. So just be patient with us and we'll start short. Hi, everybody. We're going to start in just a moment. Well, Stu, should we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Just give them a few more minutes to get in, but we don't have a ton, so.
Okay. Let's give him another minute.
Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us. This is the live webinar, Making IT the Hero of M&A Integration Success. My name is Mike Bruce. I'm the Director of Sales for the Americas here at Liquit. I have had a 20-year career really focused around application preparation, operating system migrations, application virtualization, operating system compatibility. I'm joined by Stuart Donaldson, who's the field CTO here in the Americas. Stuart has had a 20-year career as an end user computing architect, really helping companies with all things end user computing application related. Stuart is a Citrix CTA, among other things. As far as the ground rules for today, we have muted all lines. We welcome your questions, but please drop them into the chat. And if we don't get to them during the session, we will respond electronically after to make sure all questions are answered. You want to go to the next slide, Stu? So where we thought we would start is our point of view as the America's team here at Liquit. So what does Liquit do? How are we looking at the world? So Liquit provides a unified user experience, and we think it's a great user experience, really delivering the right application at the right time. And we strive to provide worry-free software distribution for our clients. If you want to go ahead. So we do that really 3 different ways. The first is we provide a workspace that can unify applications from your backend systems. So you could have a locally installed app next to a SaaS application next to one from Azure or Azure Virtual Desktop or Citrix VDI, different clouds, different data centers. To your end users, it's really one consistent experience where they're just going to the Liquit workspace to do their job. We also power our workspace with smart icon technology, which can deliver the right application at the right time based on all thousands of parameters. In order to do that, we could be sending a user or delivering an application from a myriad of backend systems. So Liquit manages the access to those systems for your users, so they really get that single sign-on experience. The last part of our platform is Liquit Release and Patch Management. This is a setup store with thousands and thousands of Windows and Mac applications and even some Linux applications. And if you needed to deploy one of those to your end users, you would grab it from our setup store, configure it, customize it, etc., in the Liquit platform. And this is not application packaging. This is a wizard-driven, very simple and quick approach to get applications into your test rings and then ultimately out to your groups. If a new version of the application enters into our setup store, which normally is within about 24 hours of the release of that new version, we do our part. Again, we apply those configurations and customizations, etc., that you did for the last version, put them together, and then with the click of a button, you can start deploying those to your test rings. At this moment, I'm going to turn it over to Stu to take us through the rest.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so as Mike told you a minute ago, my name is Stu Donaldson. I am the field CTO for North America, or the Americas, however you want to look at it. I have been in this industry for approximately 20 years, the last decade plus. I've been doing end user compute consulting around various different infrastructure platforms, from the data center technologies all the way up through the delivery of the applications and even the endpoints, doing secure endpoint technologies like iGel and Stratadesk and whatnot. Before that, I was in healthcare IT, and so I've kind of seen a really broad spectrum of the types of scenarios that you guys get into, and where some of those pitfalls are and what some of those risks can be. So today's webinar is centered around an ebook that we released about mergers and acquisitions. And it's a specific topic, but at the heart of mergers and acquisitions is the idea of change and change management. So just keep that in the back of your head. That's kind of why we're focusing on this, because Liquit is a platform that is essentially sits in the middle of your UC stack and gives you the ability to be more flexible and agile with the way that you're managing operations, and also gives you more flexibility with providing that great end user experience that not only do end users require these days, but it's really the focus, I think, of what everything that we do in the UC industry is. How do we give the best end user experience so people can do the jobs? So one of the things that comes up with mergers and acquisitions, and I can't go into all the detail here, there's so much more detail than I can get to, so I'm going to try and keep this high level, but and at the end of the webinar, we'll give you a link to get to the actual ebook. But, you know, most organizations, they see mergers and acquisitions as a means to either consolidate companies or assets or achieve some kind of specific goals, such like, say, growth stimulation, competitive advantage, let's see, and, you know, increasing market share or supply chain influence. Some organizations will only go through one or two M&A processes spread over decades or, you know, ever, while others will build their growth strategy on constant M&A processes. I worked for a client not long ago where we had we called it Acquisition Tuesday because it seemed like they were buying another company every other week. And so a lot of these things that you'll see through this presentation came up for them. But really, again, what we're getting at here is that mergers and acquisitions are an acute example of change management. The challenges faced by our IT teams during the M&A process can often be like the deciding factor in whether or not the entirety of the merger and acquisition is successful. So yeah, no pressure out there for you IT folks. Risks are something that are always involved within the M&A process. So we really have to be coherent of our design, and we have to make sure that we are trying to limit or eliminate those risks wherever possible. And then, you know, the same thing holds true for them. You know, as the process for integrating people, processes, technologies, all that's inherently costly. But depending on what our proposed business outcomes are, you know, if we're not careful about the planning stages and the identifications of all these various risks and changes that we're introducing in the environment, you know, we can quickly overrun our cost projections and erase any values that we might have gotten through the synergies of merging two businesses. So it's very, very important to make sure you have the proper tools and planning in place when you're doing this. And then, you know, as most IT teams understand when you're involved in this process, portfolio management really is the key to delivering on those financial and business synergies. But at the end of the day, it's really the applications that are you know, kind of the primary foundation of that success. Really, the application rationalization will really determine the speed and the smoothness that your M&A process can succeed, you know, and then from day one all the way out through the rest of the life cycle of the application. You know, one of our studies through McKinsey Consulting showed that, you know, on average, there's about 976 applications in an enterprise that need to be managed. Now, you take that out and you extend it across multiple organizations that you're trying to merge. There's a lot of room for exploding. There's a lot of room for cost overruns. There's a lot of room for running into those risk scenarios. So the landscape of M&As right now, based on the research we've done, we're seeing that M&A deals have come back towards post-pandemic levels. But again, according to that same study from McKinsey, they're expected to increase not only in Europe, but all across the Americas as well. Most M&A processes can span multiple months, multiple years. So again, the ability to plan and prepare for, you know, what kind of applications are we going to bring in? What kind of processes do we need to worry about? What's important from a cultural standpoint? How do people get work done? What is it that we can do from IT to make sure that this overall process is successful? All that is going to be what gets rolled up and defined so that as we are looking at the business needs, the overall opportunities, and you know, what outcomes we're shooting for, we need to understand that over the course of 12 to 24 months, those things can change. And with each day that M&A clock is ticking, so our costs, our risk, our expected profitability, and all these things that we projected when we started the M&A process, those things that clock's quickly talking down. So we need to make sure that we're keeping that in the back of our head and understanding the importance of application management in this whole process. Really allows us to be successful, because these are the tools that our people are using. These are the tools that ultimately they're using to get their jobs done. And again, all that starts with definition, identification, and an understanding of not only what the business would look like before, but what our goal is for the end. So some of those challenges, again, we need to be very cognizant of the fact that this is a change management procedure. We have a lot of things on the docket from the standpoint of collaboration and communication. How are we identifying these problems? How are we working with both teams? How are we figuring out ways in which we can improve on the things that we're keeping, trim things that we don't need any longer for those integration processes, and how can we make sure we keep costs in balance throughout this process? And from a success standpoint, it really comes down to the ability to merge cultures and operations. And through doing that, we're going to be merging those IT applications and those IT platforms. Achieving that, in our opinion, it really comes down to application management. So we got to identify what apps do we have, what do we have, or what don't we have, what's going to be important to keep and get rid of, where can we trim the fat, where can we become more streamlined. Integrating those applications and platforms into one seamless system. So day one, we're never going to be 100% unified. It's going to be an ongoing process from day one through day 100, through all the way through the point where we're merged and running along. So we have to keep in mind that the integration, the goal is that one seamless platform at the end of the day. Provisioning resources to end users that need them. How are we going to do that across multiple different identity sources and access control methodologies? How do we decommission the legacy tools that we're going to no longer need? And when can we expect to get to the point where we can start to streamline our operations and decommission those things? And then from a management perspective, after day one, day two, we're always looking for ways that we can continue to manage continuously that entire stack of applications and resources, right? So it's not just getting the thing up and ready for end users, it's the continuous management of that resource or those resources. So we really feel like the success of developing the proper M&A culture within this kind of project and getting those operational kind of wins, it really predominantly depends on IT integration across all of our entities and all of our people and all of our platforms. And we really believe that comes down to the applications, because again, those applications are our tools to do our job. We don't think it's really we don't think it's hyperbole to state that, achieving that success starts with that application management. And really, again, we're referring to the ability to identify and integrate, provision, and decommission and manage all of these applications across all these distributed locations, hybrid infrastructures, and everything else. Today's multi-cloud organization, which is everybody, we are some kind of hybrid environment, whether we are all on-prem or plus some SaaS apps, or we have local apps, we have SaaS apps, we have virtualized resources, some of them on-prem, some of them in the cloud. Our applications estates, especially when you start talking about multiple organizations trying to come together, are never the same, and they always change. So we have to be able to change with them as we're doing a process like that. And essentially, again, we're looking to make sure that we're providing the right tool for the right job. Okay, so what have we really learned at this point? Change is absolutely inevitable, and that's not just for M&A kind of purposes. This is for everyone in all of IT and heck, all of life, right? We know change is coming. It doesn't matter if we're doing an M&A or not, and we have to be ready to respond to it. And I'm always happy when I get to show this slide. So this is how I feel when I'm in the middle of a merger and acquisition, or I'm in the middle of a massive change management process, right? I'm sitting calmly and there's chaos everywhere. And really, at Liquit, I think we have a really strong solution and platform. That's why I joined a couple of months ago. I saw a platform that was really innovative and has the ability to kind of unify that end-to-end experience and provide the right tool at the right time to do the right job. So why Liquit? We can provide a consistent end user experience through our unified portal. We have end-to-end application management, self-servicing, versioning, patch management, deployment. We can unify and automate access across a number of different identity providers and access management systems. And we can do application integration across the entire stack. So what do I mean by that? Whether your local apps, your SaaS apps, your virtualized resources in, say, Citrix, VMware, that kind of thing, or you are running applications purely in the cloud, we have the ability for you to bring those all in and provide a unified front end in our modern workspace where you can utilize all those different types of applications. So within the Liquid workspace, you are not just relegated to using, say, virtual apps from Citrix or local apps from the desktop. We can bring those all in and we can put them behind what Mike was talking about earlier, which is our dynamic icons, our smart icon technology. And we'll get into that here in a few minutes. So from our perspective, the modern workspace looks a little bit like this. So Liquid sits here in the middle. And on the outside, you have your DAS and on-prem VDI, shared virtual desktop, virtual apps, various different operating systems. And then your analytics, especially around employee experience monitoring and management, which I consider to be one of the more important kind of aspects of end user compute. In my time in the industry, I found that if we focus on the end user experience as our kind of key metric, then everything else tends to fall into place, because at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? Give people access to resources to do their job. On the outside of that, we've got our access and our device management. So that would be your Oktas and your other MFA platforms, your endpoint management platforms like Intune and whatnot. So Liquid sits in the middle of that and gives you a dynamic application management platform, again, that allows us to provide updates and day two operations, allows us to consolidate access to any number of different systems, and allows us to deploy resources out of any myriad of different types of technologies, again, whether it's a virtual or a SaaS application or it's a local app. So enterprise application challenge. We see that, and we see that associated with M&A and other change management operations as really a conglomeration of deployment, management, and access of our applications. So where Liquid comes in is a little bit different. We can provide a unified application management platform. Again, I've said this multiple times, but whether you're running Windows or you're running Mac OS, you have MSIs, MSIX, you have scripts that you need to run, Flex apps, stuff from Citrix or VMware, pure SaaS applications. All of these things can exist within our modern workspace, and we can provide you the technology that allows you to deploy these either into our workspace or down to the desktop, into the start menu, into the dock on Mac OS. Wherever you happen to want to put these resources, we can deliver them there for you. From a deployment standpoint, this slide's kind of trying to depict the variety of different methods that you might be able to use. So again, whether you're bringing in the web applications from into our workspace, you're talking about installing local applications, you're running virtual applications, all that is, again, that's all available for you within this platform. And from our Liquid Setup Store, we have the ability to offer you anywhere up to about 4,000 or so Windows and Mac applications, 80,000 branches or so of those applications that are constantly being curated and updated on the back end. And we give you the mechanism from which we can have you either automatically or manually run through the update process. So those day two operations that take the most time, we're making essentially a one-click or a couple of click operation. So from our setup store, you can do automatic updates, or you can do manual updates, like I was just saying. So if I've got Teams out there and I want to do automatic updates for it, but instead I want to do manual updates from a local store, I can update the app in the background. I can deploy that out to a test and acceptance group, and then I can deploy that app into production when it's ready to go. So I don't have to just automatically deploy apps out into the ecosystem. I can run through that normal testing process. So again, maybe you have 100 users that are set into your test group, and then maybe 500 in your acceptance group. And as you move these applications to these other groups and they click their icon in that workspace, they're automatically getting the proper version of that application that you need them to have. So nothing changes on the end user side. It all changes. All the changes are happening on the back end with the way that you want to do them. So from a lifecycle management standpoint, this is also key. It's super easy with the Liquit Setup Store. So with the Liquit Setup Store, again, we've got an application that we've brought in, say a vendor app like Teams. App is updated by the vendor, and on that same day or day one, we have updates within our Liquit Setup Store. We're constantly scouring for those applications and the availability to bring them down to you. We've virus scanned them, we've checked them for malware, we've injected CD information into it. So if there's a vulnerability that you need to know about, that'll be available for you within the console so you can see it right away, whether or not you've got a problem that you need to look into. Then your customer gets updated that there is an app update, and then the app can get deployed out to test, production, acceptance, however you want to do it. From the standpoint of custom applications, you don't just have to use the app that we provide you in that setup store. There are always going to be applications that we can't get to. Maybe they're behind a paywall, maybe they are behind a login requirement, or maybe they're a custom in-house application. You can upload those into your own custom store. Again, combining applications from any number of different resources, like I was talking about earlier. When you guys get that app updated and ready, whether it's, for you or maybe for, if you're an MSP, you're sending that out to a customer zone. And then once it's all ready to go, app is updated and it's put into the production environment. So we can also extend this functionality out to groups of applications, which are called deployments. So as you're building out the packages within the environment, and I say packages, and I want to circle back around the fact that we are not doing application packaging here, if we didn't say that before. We want to get you away from application packaging. These are all the MSIs. This is not, they're not packages. They're essentially the MSIs. And the reason we call them packages is because we're creating the backend application that we want to deploy, basic application, surrounding it with the update process. And then we're also injecting on the fly with our automation engine all the settings that might normally be part of a package. So think of it as a bundle, really. But a deployment in the Liquit world is a bundle of bundles. So we can manage applications and groups of applications all together and deploy them out to multiple different endpoint types or platform types or user types, depending on what context you define in the environment. So here, we're pushing out deployment to our VDI platform. And the applications that we've assigned and only assigned are getting out to that environment. So you can see we've got a big bundle of apps on the virtual desktop side. We have a smaller subset from a published application standpoint. And then we've also sent our apps down to our local endpoints as well for those people that need local installs. And again, this is all dependent on who I am at any time. So when I get into the workspace, there's going to be a context developed around me, and I'll show you more about that here in a little bit. I didn't, oh, yep, a little bit more animation. Let's just show my updates go out there. Okay, so what we saw there was an example of PowerPoint getting updated. So when I had an update available for me, only PowerPoint in that group of applications was ready to go. So we don't have to upgrade everything all at the same time. We can independently manage these applications inside of deployments. And so the entire environment, again, we can group applications, we can define people and roles and devices and all sorts of other things to our automation engine, so that at the end of the day, Stu, when he's in the office, and Stu, when he's at home, and Stu, when he's at home on a personal device versus a work device, these are all things that we can key off of to make sure that you guys are deploying the right application at the right time to the end users. An example of a application out of our store. So right now, this is a managed app, Teams. We can take one application, we can do many types of different deployments. And again, I was just talking about a persona or a context that you might put around an end user. End user Stu is on a desktop or a laptop inside of the office, and he may get one type of config. Me, when I go home, as Stu B, might get a different type of config. When I'm home, I may not want a lot of my users to have local access to an application on my device. I may want them to use the Citrix version of the application. That's the best application version for them to use at that time. So when they click on that smart icon, instead of getting the locally installed version, they're going to get the online version or the virtual version, whatever makes the most sense for me. And again, from the smart icon technology standpoint, that's what I was talking about there for a second ago. Doesn't matter what platform we're on, doesn't matter what location we're at. Here we're taking a look at two different situations. I've got Windows and I've got Mac. And through this, I could either be in the office, I could be external. Do I own the device or do I not? And in these different instances, I may want to offer the end user, say to me again, Stu gets on, when he's in the office on a corporate device, he gets the local install. But when he's in the office on BYOD device, he gets the published application. Over here, where he's external, I get on my corporate device, I get the local install. But if I'm on my own home computer, I don't get anything. I don't want them to have access to this. And same goes for Mac OS. It may be that I want to install the web, the published application. Doesn't really matter. The key here is that through that smart icon technology, when I click on PowerPoint as an end user, I'm getting what is defined as the best tool at that time for me to use. Time, about 15 minutes. I'm going to try and get through this a little quicker so that we can show you a little bit of the platform live. Here, another thing that we can provide is additional automation and personalization through dynamic mapping of resources when that defined context calls for them. So maybe I'm in the office right now, I'm running on a Windows machine, and it's a corporate-owned device, and in that scenario, I want to be able to map printer and map drive to an end user. So that's something we can automatically provide as well. So it's not just about applications. Again, it's about defining a context and all the tools that might be needed to do a job at any given time. And then from an access standpoint, I was saying this earlier, we can provide access to these resources either through desktop icons, Mac OS, in the dock or in the start menu. We can do it through our HTML5 portal, through the Fact Find app, the Liquit Workspace app. Or we can even do it as smart icons injected into, say, a custom app portal that you might already have. SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, which is a huge one. We have a customer that what they want to do is take Microsoft Teams and have that be the primary point that their end users interact with the company, right? So whether they're getting to their collaboration, they're doing their meetings, they're getting, they're seeing their calendars, they're accessing their applications, all that's happening in that one Teams portal. And from an integration standpoint, we have integrations with a number of different vendors, whether it's Citrix, Okta, Liquit, Nutanix, Microsoft, really across the board. And because our platform is essentially an automation engine, you can integrate with almost anything through that. All right, so I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to leave this up for a minute. This is our M&A ebook right here. Got a QR code that you can scan for that. I highly recommend reading that if the M&A topic is something that concerns you guys. Again, I really look at M&A as a cute example of change management. So it really applies to everybody, but you can get a great ebook here. It's got lots of additional detail. And then if you scan this one, you can go right to a page and request a demo from us. So we're happy to do that. But real quick here, I'm going to flip over to my demo environment. Mike, help me out here. Can you see my demo environment here? Great. All right. So I only got about 10 minutes here. Let's say 7, so that we can give you guys a chance to ask a few questions. I can't remember if Mike said this earlier, but if you guys submit the questions into the question and answer section, any of the ones that we don't get to, we will follow up to you guys on a email, or we can schedule a call, so you have our email addresses you just saw. All right, so what you're looking at now is my personal demo environment. This is running locally in my at my place, but I also have a second demo environment. You can see here the two drastically different looking environments. It's very customizable. This modern workspace is right now I'm showing it to you inside of our HTML5 interface. But again, we have a local agent that you can use. Think of the Citrix Workspace app, for example. It's essentially going to look very familiar to your end users, but all these icons here, which could either be on my desktop as well, or my start menu, these are not traditional application icons. These are dynamic icons. We call them smart icon technology. So what happens is when I click on PowerPoint, it's going to do an API call back to my infrastructure. It's going to say, what makes Stu Stu at this time, right? Is he on a corporate device? Is he on a corporate network? Does he have a certificate installed? How many resources are available to run an application? If you can think of it, we can probably key off of it. But you take all that and you build a context around an end user as they're moving around doing their day-to-day stuff. And that allows you to make a determination as to what version of PowerPoint do I want to give them? Do I want to give them the Citrix version? Do I want to give them the local install version? Is the local install version there? No. Okay, go ahead and install it. Does the local install version need an update when it launches? So there are a lot of different things and actions that we can build around application launches. I'm going to show you here real quick. If you were an end user, you wouldn't see the manage section, obviously, but the real power of the platform, in my opinion, comes from the connectors themselves and the ability to access our setup store. So right now, I have two connectors in here. I have a demo environment that we saw up here, and then I can pull applications from, and I also have my Liquit setup store. My Liquit setup store, as we were talking about earlier, has thousands and thousands of applications in it, and these are applications that the Liquid team are curating. They're managing, maintaining these all in the background. This is all in our system. And you can pull these applications down into your environment and use those for deployment out to your end users. Let's see, what do I have in mind right now? Let's do 7-zip. Let's do WinZip. That'll work. Manage packages. Sorry, just taking a look here real quick. Connectors. Do our setup store. You know what? I'm going to do Adobe because that's easy. So with Adobe here, you can see we have any number of different versions here, but let's go ahead and pull Acrobat Reader DC64. So this would be the process of bringing in an application into your environment. I'm going to put this in development and tell it to update any existing packages. Right here, you see that we have CVE information. So there's a KB article, but if you had, say, 10 or 12 CVEs related to this particular application, you would have all here, and you would have links to get to the information you needed. Now, I can quickly customize this. What I mean by that is when you're doing an install, do I need to have any command line parameters? So these were all pulled out of the MFI itself. These are all various different options that I can use when installing it. Do I want to be silent? Do I want to prevent a reboot? All that kind of stuff that you would expect. And then I'm going to give it to everyone since it's my lab live. And everyone, if you pray to the live demo gods for me that everything works, that'd be great. Oops. I want. I'm going to put this in our catalog. Now, if you did have an approval process that you wanted to use, this is where you would get to it. You could click that right there, and then we'll say next and finish. And I have to be quick because we only have about 7 minutes. You never have enough time when you're doing these things. So what's happening now is this is pulling from our servers, from our CDNs. It's pulling down Adobe Acrobat Reader DC64. What that's going to do is it's going to place this inside of my catalog. When I tell it to, here in a second, it's going to place this into the catalog, and it's going to make it available for our environment. So to do that, easiest thing in the world. First, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to feature it so it's easy for me to find. And then I am going to just take this. I could drop it into test if I wanted to have a test ring, or I could throw it in my acceptance ring if I wanted to do that, but I'm going to throw it into production because we don't have much time here. And I'm going to come back out here to my catalog. And I don't think we spent too much time talking about this, but this catalog is essentially our app store, our self-service portal. You could provide any number of applications in here if you wanted. You can force the applications into a person's workspace, or you can allow them to grab it out of here. But right here, I've got Adobe. I'm going to come back over here to my workspace, and we're going to launch Adobe. Launching and installing in the background. So easy peasy. And that was actually cheating. I have that cached on my local machine. So it would take a little bit longer in a normal situation, but A smaller package like that is very fast, especially if you have the infrastructure designed to have the content location close to an individual. So we'll close that out. The other thing I think that makes sense to show you really real quick is the deployment groups, because I know some of you guys are going to be end user compute people out here. So actually, I'm going to flip over here to this environment. If I want to take a look at my deployment groups again, these are essentially collections of applications. So I've got my Citrix Golden Image here, and these packages, I've decided that I want to be part of my Golden Image. So I can manage and I can update and I can do all the kind of work that I want to do on a day 2 operation all together here. And then last thing, Mike, here before I open it up to questions, let's just take a look here real quick again at what we've got going. So in my environment, I've got these managed packages. But if I come over here to my overview, I can see, hey, look, I've got updates that are available. This is essentially as difficult as it is to get an update into the environment. Right now, I've got 205. 206 is stuck here in acceptance because that's where I told it to go to. Now, when I drop it in here, 206 is just moved into production. So when I come back over here to my workspace and I launch CPU-Z, it's going to see that I needed a new version. And now I've got 206. That's about it. And I've shown you about 1% of the platform because we don't have enough time here. I would love to be able to show you guys more, talk about specific use cases. How does the Liquit platform really enable those change management operations? And anything else you guys want to talk about. But Mike, if you have any questions, why don't you start rattling them off? Let's see.
Stu, I don't know if I'm not seeing the chat, but I have no questions at this time.
Okay, I got one. Okay, so running on IGEL and Chrome OS. Okay, so in both of those platforms, Chrome OS, no, we don't have any support for it, but IGEL OS, and I say this, I've said this about IGEL, I've said this about Stratodesk, No Touch. Really what you're looking at here, because we don't have the ability to install applications into those environments. We don't have the ability with Chrome either. You can very easily, though, use HTML5 browser and do a kiosk mode. So I have clients that are doing Liquit with IGEL endpoints, but one of the things I like to point out is that nobody ever has, again, a consistent application estate. So that also flows down into the desktop estate. We're always going to have laptops, desktops, servers. We're going to have endpoints that are IGEL thin clients or Stratodesk thin clients. We have this broad mix that make up any organization, especially in an M&A type of process where we're talking about 2 different organizations, right? Coming together, what do we keep and how do we utilize and manage applications across a variety of endpoint types of devices? So when it comes to IGEL, and we're talking about a read-only operating system, right now we're at the state where the best advice I have is to use a kiosk mode, launch into the HTML5 interface, and then launch all of your applications from in there. So part of your context associated with the IGEL endpoint device may say, hey, we're not using a locally installed application version here. We're going to be using a Citrix version, or we're going to be using the SaaS version of that application, if that makes sense. And I'm happy to go into a lot more detail on that. Let's see, what else do we got here? I got about 2 minutes. Oh, the meeting's kind of screwy for me here right now. Do we get a stroopwafel? Where'd that one go? I just saw, do we get a stroopwafel when we sign up for a demo? Yes, I'm going to talk to the Netherlands and make sure you get a stroopwafel if you write in for a demo. Be happy to make that happen. Let's see. Application updating. Yes, okay, so when I was talking about the ability to do, the question was, do the updates have to go out all at once? Can you independently manage those? So the application updating process is like this. You have 2 options. You can do manual updates or you can do automatic updates. The manual updates are more or less where you're going to have the most control, right? You can dictate how manual they want to be. Do I want to say, okay, only allow the updates to automatically go out to my test ring users, or keep them in development, and then I want to be able to push them out to my test ring users or my acceptance or my production. So you can really start it. You can do the updates in the background, and then you can decide, okay, do I want anybody to see it? Maybe I send it automatically to my test group, or I send it just to development. And then from an automatic standpoint, you can do it the same way. You're just allowing the system to do it for you. So I may say I automatically go out there and grab the updates when they're available and build out that newer version, but leave it in development so that I can manually push it out to my end user. So I'll automatically push it into the test ring group, and then I can put it into production. Or maybe there's a collection of applications like Acrobat and 7-Zip, and I'm reading off my screen, obviously, that I don't care whether or not they automatically get updated, or perhaps it's even better that they automatically get updated, right? Maybe for Chrome, there are so many updates that I don't ever want to be bothered with it again. So you can set those things to be automatically updated and pushed out into production. And then if there's a problem, you can always in the same process, essentially drag it back up and revert to the previous version. So, I mean, it's literally a drag and drop, click OK, and then revert back to the version that you were previously on. And so the next time the person launches that application, they're going to either get downgraded if it's a locally installed app, or they're going to go back to that other published resource. Let's see. Oh, sorry guys. The window for viewing these questions is like I can't expand it. Let's see. Great presentation. Hey, thanks. Stroopwafel, Chrome. Pricing. Mike, do you want to take that one?
Good thing. So the license model is per user. So you think about Stuart, right? He may have a work computer, a personal device, a tablet, a phone, etc. We just license Stu, and then that covers all of his devices, access to all of the applications in our setup store, etc. We have different sort of versions of the license model. If you're in healthcare, we have a concurrent model. We have a nonprofit, a university model. And if maybe we switch back to the request a demo QR, we'd be happy to get into more detail. Yeah. If you either use my email at the bottom there, Mike Bruce or Stuart, or QR the request a demo, and you can send your name and information in, and we can follow up with you.
Yep, I got one more here, Mike. So the question is basically, I was talking about the automation engine. So just to backtrack a little bit, and I apologize, I may not have been clear about this because I was trying to quickly get through things, but when I talk about Liquit, or when I think about Liquit rather, Liquit to me at its core is an automation platform. It's an automation engine that's designed to build a context around your end users. What makes me at any given point, whether I'm in-home, I'm utilizing the corporate-owned device, a bring your own, like my own personal device, I'm on a phone, I'm on a desktop, I'm in a certain kind of coffee shop, I'm accessing a certain kind of application, right? So you key off about 1 billion different things. And again, automation engine helps you build a context for all these different things, right? So really what we're doing is we're taking a modern front end, that workspace you see, and we're delivering applications down to an end user. So they see their resources, right? We know that Stu needs PowerPoint, he needs VMware Workstation, he needs CPU-Z, he needs GIMP, and he needs 2 other applications to do his job, right? And at any given time, the version of that application that I need to do my job may be slightly different based on where I'm located, what device I'm on, whether I'm on a thin client or I'm on a desktop PC, how much RAM do I have in my machine, right? And when I click on that icon, again, kicks off an API call back to the Liquit environment and says, what makes Stu at this time, and which version of the application should we provide them? So your end user never sees that stuff going on in the background. They don't need to know that because they're home, they're going to Citrix and now they're in the office, they need to go here. Instead, they just click on the application in their workspace and they go about their day because they're getting the best version of that application for them at any time. So again, like Mike was saying, not enough time here today to even scratch the surface of what the Liquit platform can do, the types of integrations we have, the ways people are using the platform to solve problems. But we'll take a look at all the rest of the questions in here. And if you want, please request a demo. Take a look at the M&A book, because it'll probably give you a lot of good ideas on not only that type of specific operation, but also change operations in general, that change management stuff. Because regardless of who we are, where we're at, our environment is changing daily on us, no matter how much we want it to just stay same and stable. There's always going to be a reason for it to change on us. So, Mike, I can't think of anything else. If you want to add anything before we leave?
I think that's it. Just a big thanks to everybody that joined us today. And we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate your time.